Well, in this video, I'm really glad that we're going to talk about what happens to the body during stress, because we talked about all the different things in terms of the three types of stressors: environmental, psychological, social. We talked about how a stressor is really something that stress is really allows us to increase our thinking capacity and our wit, the quickness of our thinking capacity, as well as all our senses and all our abilities. It allows us, but that's made just for a really quick, 1 or 2 second thing. And the example we've been using these videos is somebody rides a bike out in front of us. We've got to make a lot of decisions real quick. We've got to decide, whether to hit the gas and go around them, hit the brake, stop right there. We've got to see how far they are from us. We've got to see if there's anybody behind us. And how long do we have? A millisecond. So stress is really designed to happen that quick. So the minute we have stress, the minute that our body recognizes a stressor and says, oh my gosh, we are in trouble, okay? We're in trouble. This is what happens to the body. Now, let me just kind of tell you so you can kind of keep this back in the back of your mind, okay? Environmental stressors are pretty easy to deal with, but psychological, they're in our mind the whole time, and so these things are happening with stress. And social stressors, interaction with other people, okay, we have an argument with somebody, these things can happen if it becomes stress. Now, what is stress? Once again, when we talked about the very beginning of stress, stress is something that, it's a stimuli, it's something that exceeds our ability to cope with. So we're like, oh, whoa, okay, because the minute we cope with it, it's no longer stress. So once we deal with it, then that stress is gone. It may be a problem, don't get me wrong. I mean, it may be a problem. A bear's chased us and now we're hiding up in a tree, okay? And we may still be solving a problem, but we don't have that stressor immediately causing these things. So I want to emphasize this because when we have an argument with somebody, it's stress until you solve the problem. And we're going to talk about coping with stress in a little bit, but if you understand psychology, then you can kind of understand coping with stress. So listen to the things that happen to the human body the minute we have stress, okay? This can happen once again within, when we say a millisecond, that's 1/1000th of a second. Mill is 1/1000th and a millisecond is 1/1000th of a second. I mean, could you even count to 1,000 within a second? That's how short a period of time. So these are immediate reactions to stress, okay? All right, so let's start at the head and work down, okay? Well, first of all, the blood, and I'm taking this right out of your textbook by Gehrig here, physical psychology textbook. Okay, so blood vessels in your skin, your skeletal muscles, okay, what are your skeletal muscles? All the muscles for movement, okay, the brain, okay, so all of these blood vessels constrict, okay. Constrict means get smaller, all right. Constrict means get smaller. It takes less blood to go through there. Your blood pressure is elevated, okay? And you have constricted blood vessels in your brain. So you would think, well, why is that good? Okay, why is that good? Well, let's think about a garden hose, okay? So we've got 2 garden hoses. We've got a big garden hose here that's about 1 inch in diameter, and we turn it on at the faucet, and the water comes out, and here's the water, okay? And there's a lot of water coming out, but it doesn't have much pressure. So now we're going to take that same inch garden hose, and we're going to go down to 1/4 of an inch. We're going to make the garden hose this big, okay? So now we're going to put that garden hose, we're going to take off the 1-inch garden hose out on our faucet, and we're going to put on a 1/4 inch garden hose, okay? So now what's the water going to do? Okay, same amount of water, same amount, we're going to turn it on all the way, and in the 1 inch the water comes out, a lot of water flow, but with the 1/4 inch, we're going to increase the pressure, and that water is going to shoot, man, I mean, we're going to hold that, and it's going to shoot out there, 5-6 feet. So what are we doing when we constrict, okay, what are we doing when we constrict the blood vessels? We increase the flow of blood really fast. So is it more oxygen? No, it's the same amount of oxygen, but it's quicker. Well, what happens, that's a split-second thing. So when that happens and that person rides out with a little kid on a bicycle rides out in front of us, then we go psh, and that happens, and immediately we get blood flow to all the different parts of our brain. We're thinking we're doing really good. Here we go, let's see what happens. But what if that continues over a period of time? I mean, that's made for a millisecond. That's made for real quick shoot of blood through our head, through our muscles. This is almost the, I don't want to get it confused with adrenaline, but adrenaline is part of stress, okay? Adrenaline is where we can do something that we couldn't ordinarily do. All of a sudden, all of our muscles have a ton of blood and oxygen up in the capillaries because we constricted them. That's where the lady lifts up a Volkswagen that's on top of her baby or something. Okay, so what's the problem if we continue to do this? So it's social. So we have an argument with somebody, and it's a really big argument, and we're stressed about it. And after a while, we increase the blood pressure in our brain because of this constricted blood vessels. And when we do, we get a headache. We get a headache. Our stress causes we have a stress headache. We get this headache because it's only supposed to be for a very temporary time, less than a second, maybe even a couple of seconds, and it's done. But instead, we're stressing over something that we continue to stress over. Now, remember once again that stress is a stimuli beyond it's a stimulus that is beyond our ability to cope with that stimuli. That's stress. Now, whenever we have stress, okay, and we deal with it, okay, we kind of talked about this before, I sound like a broken record, but I want to keep re-emphasizing this. When we deal with it, it's a problem, don't get me wrong, but it no longer is a stressor. It's no longer causing stress. So, first thing is the blood vessels in the skin and the skeletal muscles in the brain constrict and become smaller. The pupil, okay, in our eye dilates. Oh, okay, now what does dilate mean? That's opposite of constricting. It dilates, it gets bigger. So it allows us to be able to see quicker and better. It allows us to see in the dark. It allows us to see farther right away. It dilates, okay? But what's the problem with a dilated pupil? The pupil is the opening in our eye that allows the light to go back across the retina, okay, and send the information to the brain. Well, the problem is that if you go to the optometrist, he might say, hey, let's dilate your eyes, okay, so that I can look inside. And he can actually put a drop of a particular medicine. It's kind of a buffer solution. He can put it on the tip of your eye, and he can actually look in there, and he can actually take a little scope and look in. He'll look back in the back of your retina, and he'll look for glaucoma, and he'll look for all different kinds of things. It's really neat. He just looks for clumping anywhere. And so there's more to it than that. But when the eye dilates, okay, that's a good thing. It happens quick. But when you go outside, like after he dilates your eye, that particular chemical causes your eye to stay dilated for a long period of time. Oh, he says, man, you got to wear these sunglasses, and it's not good to drive, and all the different problems because we're letting too much light in. So what if we're overly stressed to the point to where we have this major stressing and our eyes stay dilated? That's a problem, okay? The next thing is sweating increases over the whole body. Sweating increases. Now, why does sweating increase? Because we are preparing ourselves for a major thing. We're preparing fight or flight. We're preparing ourselves to be in a real battle or a run or something. So we've got to cool the body down right away because we know that it's going to get hot. And once again, when we have a social stressor and we have an argument with somebody, we're not fight or flight, okay? But we've made it stress to the point to where we start sweating, all right? So we're going to talk about some coping with stress later, and one of the things for coping with the sweating is to be able to turn that stress into something that our body did, flight or fight, okay? So all of a sudden we jet out and we run, or we walk, or we go out and we walk a mile, and all of a sudden our body's like, okay, we solved the stress because we were prepared for immediate workout, okay? That's why a lot of people run off stress, okay? That's really good, okay? So then the next thing that happens is the bronchial tubes dilate. That's the tubes going into the lungs, okay? So they dilate and they get big, so all of a sudden they can handle a lot more oxygen. So when we breathe in, we can breathe in more oxygen and actually increase our metabolic activity, okay? Then we've got some other things that we have here. Your skin and your body here produce goosebumps, okay? So all of a sudden you get these goosebumps. Now what's the purpose of goosebumps? Goosebumps actually increase the surface area of your skin and allow you to have, goosebumps allow you to have more ability to give off heat, okay, all right, or to take in heat, all right, or to be able to sense more things through your through the actual sensory nerves in your skin, okay. And then the next thing is the heart accelerates, the rate of beating increases, and so we've already dilated the blood vessels, so we already made them small, like that garden hose that shoots the water out. Now we're also going to increase your heart rate. We're also going to increase the amount of oxygen in there. So now your body is hyped up. You got high blood pressure. You're shooting oxygen throughout your whole body, and you're ready to go. Something's going to happen quick. But once again, it's designed to do what? Be very temporary. When we make stress long-term deal, then that's a problem. Okay. Now then, this is interesting. Okay. This is really fascinating. What does the digestive tract, now you probably never thought of this, okay? What does the digestive tract do during stress? Well, it's really fascinating because the digestive system, the stomach, the muscles that are usually working the stomach stop. We have muscle paralysis in the stomach. It stops digesting food. It stops producing acid, okay? It's really fascinating because the anal sphincter in the rear end, okay, and the urinary sphincter, okay. So in order for you to urinate or go to the bathroom, in scientific term there is void, okay. To either urinate or void, it shuts it down. So during this emergency, you have no need to go to the bathroom. Now that's kind of crazy, isn't it? So it's like puts that on hold, like that's like not a priority. Well, that's interesting because somebody with major stress may deal with constipation, or they may deal with extreme stomach problems. It's because that stress has shut down the stomach, shut down the intestines from working, all right, and it's closed and it's sealed up the anal sphincter and the urinary sphincter, and all of a sudden stress is designed, you know, it's kind of like, we'll use this example several times here. The kid rides out in front of you on a bicycle. That's a bad time to be like, oh my gosh, I need to go to the bathroom, okay? So your body says, oh, shut all of that off, I don't need that. For what? For a millisecond, for 2 minutes, for something quick, but not long term, okay? So then we have some other things that happens. The liver releases sugar into the bloodstream. Immediately, the liver releases sugar, gives us quick energy, all right? And then we also have a really interesting deal. We have another interesting deal in that the adrenal glands stimulate adrenaline, okay, increase blood sugar, blood pressure, heart rate, and the adrenaline actually adds to all of this, okay? If we have a stressor and something happens, that's one thing. If we have adrenaline, that's an actual hormone that's produced in our body to cause us to be super active and increase our metabolism. So we actually produce adrenaline plus do all these other things. Increase our heart rate, increase the amount of oxygen in there. We cause our eyes to dilate, get big. We cause our blood vessels to contract and constrict and get smaller. So we increase all our metabolism right away. Which sounds really good if we have that quick emergency of that kid riding that bike out in front, but a really bad deal if stress occurs over a long period of time. So, in the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about coping with stress and what to do. So we'll see you then.